Nothing can separate. Even if I run away, your love never fails. I know I still make mistakes, but you have new mercies for me every day. Your love never fails. You stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails. The wind is strong and the water's deep, but I'm not alone here in these open seas. Your love never fails. The chasm is far too wide. I never thought I'd reach the other side. Your love never fails. You stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails. You make all things work together for my good. You make all things work together for my good. Oh, you make all things work together for my good. Yeah, you make all things work together for my good. Oh, you make all things work together for my good. Oh, you make all things work together for my good. You stay the same through the ages. Your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, but joy comes in the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails.
Hello, Preteen! I'm glad you're here with us today. We are continuing our series through the summer on the Old Testament stories and men of faith. Some really cool stories we've heard. We've heard Noah, we've heard Abraham, we've heard Joseph, and we've heard about Moses. And this is going to be another story about Moses because it's the second part. It's really cool. There's some plagues going on. God shows his mighty wonders, and it's just really a cool story. Now, back in the day in Egypt, Pharaoh was king. And remember what happened last week with Moses, and Moses was trying to remember the Israelites were his people. He tried to kill somebody and he ran away to the wilderness, and then God came to him in the burning bush and said, you're going to let my people go. The people have been in slavery for hundreds of years because of this Pharaoh. And so with God's help, Moses and his brother Aaron are going to go back to Egypt, and they're going to set these Israelites free. Now, when Pharaoh was Pharaoh, they had all these magicians and sorcerers and people who thought they knew everything about everything and had the kind of a dark magic going on. But God was going to show his mighty wonders. Say, for instance, I have this piece of paper. Okay, and I am going to cut this piece of paper in half to see if it's going to be a whole half a piece of paper. Is it going to be half a piece of paper, or is it going to not? So let's see how this works out. Because some people think, oh yeah, she's going to cut it right down the middle, right down, it's going to cut in half, and it's going to be a big, huge piece of paper. Or it's going to cut in half. Oh, it's big and huge. Some people think that magic tricks are like this. You think it's going to be something else, but it turns into something entirely different. And back in the day, these magicians and these guys who were with Pharaoh were kind of tricky, and they kind of did their magic in a dark magic. So we're going to start with Exodus chapter 7. Then the Lord said to Moses, see, I have made you like God to Pharaoh, and your brother Aaron will be like a prophet. You are to say everything I command you. And your brother is going to Pharaoh to let the Israelites go out of his country. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart. And though I multiply my signs and wonders in Egypt, he will not listen. All right, so what's going to happen is God is sending Aaron and Moses to set the people free, and God is going to show his mighty wonders to Pharaoh, who doesn't believe that there's a one true God. He believes that all these other false gods, they have the Nile River God, they have a frog God, they have a cow God, they have all these other gods that are false gods. And God is there to show them that he is the one true God. All right, so Aaron and Moses go to Pharaoh, and they said, let our people go. We want to go into the desert to worship God. And Pharaoh's like, who are you? I don't know who you are. Perform me your miracle. And so they were ready because God had told them to do this. So the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, when Pharaoh says to perform a miracle, you're to take your staff and throw it down before Pharaoh, and it will become a snake. And so that's what Moses and Aaron did. He threw his staff down, it became a snake. But Pharaoh's magicians threw their staffs down, and they became snakes too. But Aaron's snake swallowed up all their other snakes. Pharaoh saw this, but he still hardened his heart and said, I'm not going to let your people go. All right, so here we start the 10 plagues. The first plague is the plague of blood. And the next morning, Pharaoh's down in the river, and God tells Moses and Aaron, go down to the river, and you're going to tell him you want to let the people go, otherwise he's going to turn the water to blood. Well, Pharaoh says no, and the whole Nile turns to blood, and all the ponds and all the lakes and everything that are around there, even water inside their houses, turn to blood. Well, Pharaoh looked at his magicians, and they turned water to blood too. So Pharaoh hardened his heart. He said, no, I'm not going to let your people go. So the second one was the plague of frogs. Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, please let our people go. We want to go worship God. And he says, no. So they said, okay, we're going to send a plague of frogs. They're going to be in your bed. They're going to be in your food. They're going to be in your water, everywhere. And so that's what happened. All these frogs came up out of the Nile River, and there was tons of frogs everywhere. Well, Pharaoh looked at his sorcerers, and they were able to bring frogs up out of the river. So Pharaoh said, no, I'm not going to let your people go. All right, the next plague is the plague of gnats. And so this is what God had him do. God had Moses, he said to get some dust, throw it up in the air, and these gnats are going to come up everywhere. And they were in the people's faces, they were in their houses, they were all over the animals. And this was one that the magicians couldn't copy. They looked at Pharaoh and they said, this has got to be the finger of God. But Pharaoh still hardened his heart, and he would not believe it, and he didn't want to let the people go. So then there was the plague of flies. Nasty flies everywhere. God told Moses to get some ash, and he Oh, sorry, that's not it. That's the boils. So God told Moses to hold up his staff, and there was flies everywhere, flies all over the people, flies all over the animals. And it was just nasty. And the magicians could not copy this. And Pharaoh said, please take the flies away and I'll let your people go. But he didn't. He did not let the people go. All right. And so now there's going to be a distinction between the Israelites and the Egyptians. The Israelites lived in the land of Goshen, right next part of Egypt, and here's the Egyptians. And so the Israelites were slaves over here, but they lived over here in this part right next to them. So God was then going to separate, and he was going to say, okay, all the plagues are going to happen on the Egyptians from now on and not on the Israelites. And so there was going to be a separation. All right, so the next plague was going to be the plague of livestock. So the cattle, the sheep, the horses, the donkeys, all of that from the Egyptians were going to die. Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said, this is what's going to happen. Please let our people go worship God. And Pharaoh said no. He hardened his heart. And so what happened? The next day, all the livestock died on the Egyptian side. Pharaoh sent investigators over on the Goshen side where the Israelites were. None of them died. So he had to know that this was going on. It was a separation that God did. The next one is boils. And this is the one where Moses took ash and threw it up in the air, and the people got boils. Boils are these little red things that pop up under your skin. They're very painful. And they got them all over their body. But it was just the Egyptians and not the Israelites. And Pharaoh's like, please say a prayer. Get this off of us and you guys can go worship in the desert. So Moses prayed for them. The boils went away. But then Pharaoh hardened his heart and he said, no, you're not going to go. So Aaron and Moses went up again to Pharaoh and said, this is what's going to happen. God is going to send hail to your land. And it's going to be the worst storm that you've ever seen. And it's going to ruin your crops that are out now. And anybody who's out caught in it is going to die. And so that's what happened. The worst hailstone that had ever fallen on Egypt happened. Big, huge storm, lots of hailstone. Anything that was out in it died. But Pharaoh still hardened his heart and he wasn't going to let the people go. The next one was locusts. Aaron and Moses went to Pharaoh and said, look, this is what's going to happen. All the rest of the crops that didn't pop up are now popping up, and God is going to send locusts all over the land. When you look at the ground, you won't be able to see any ground. It's just going to be locusts, black locusts all over the place, and they're going to eat whatever's left. It's going to ruin Egypt. But Pharaoh hardened his heart. He didn't care. So he didn't let the people go until the next day. God sent locusts into Egypt. And it was only on Egypt's side, not on the Israelite side. That is so cool, how they're so close together. But God said, this is my people, and this is not my people. So Pharaoh summoned Aaron and Moses, said, please take this away, and you can go worship. So again, they took it away, but he did not let them go worship. And so the next plague was darkness, 3 days of darkness. So it was so dark they couldn't even see their hands in front of their face. They weren't able to go anywhere and do anything because they couldn't see in front of them. And so finally on the third day, Pharaoh said, please take this away and you guys can go worship. So they was taken away, but it didn't happen. He hardened his heart again. All right, come to the last plague. This is the 10th plague. This is the worst plague of all, the plague of the firstborn. And so he went before Pharaoh. Excuse me. And he said, I'm not going to come before you again. This is what's going to happen. At midnight tonight, all of the firstborn in your household, from you all the way down to the lady at the handmill, they're going to die. You have not let our people go worship God in the desert, and this is what's going to happen to you. Meanwhile, Moses talked to the Israelites and said, this is what you're going to do so that our firstborn don't die, is you are going to kill a perfect lamb that has no defect. You're going to put its blood on the doorways and on the top of your doors and on the door frames. And when God sends the death angel is going to pass over the door frames that have blood on them. And so the Israelites were going to be saved, and they were going to make this meal. And Moses said, you need to pack up all your stuff, and you get all your food ready, because he's going to let the people go tonight. And as soon as he says, let them go, that's going to happen. And so at midnight, that's what happened. All the firstborn in Egypt died, from the Pharaoh's palace all the way down to the servant, and even the livestock's firstborn died. And so that was the last plague. And then Pharaoh came to Moses and he said, okay, get out. He was so mad. He said, leave, take your families, take your livestock, go worship God in the desert. And so they left. All the people, they were ready, and they left. And so God led them, the cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, and they followed God. And God led them to a place right in front of the Red Sea. Now, when Pharaoh and his officials came to their minds, they're like, what? How can we let these people go? They're our servants, they're our servitudes. They're the ones who build everything around here. Let's go get them. And so they leave, and they go after them in their chariots. And so when they finally catch up with them, the Israelites complain to Moses, and they're like, you just brought us out here to die? Look, they're coming up after us. They were fearful, they were scared, they weren't trusting God. But Moses was. And Moses said, do not fear. God is going to take care of us. And I'm going to skip to the part. So in Exodus 14, verse 31, this is one of my favorite parts of the story. And when the Israelites saw the mighty hand of the Lord displayed against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord and put their trust in him and in Moses, his servant. So what happened, the Israelites were going to trust Moses no matter what happened. And Moses told them, he said, you need to trust God. Do not fear. And so they put their trust in Moses. And God told Moses to hold out a staff in the water, and the waters were going to part. There's going to be a wall of water on your right and wall of water on your left, and they were going to pass through on dry ground. The ground wasn't even going to be muddy. They were going to be all the way through. And so what happened was God and his cloud moved back behind the Israelites and protected them from the Egyptians while they crossed all night across the Red Sea. And when they finally got close, God left them, and the Pharaoh's chariots and all the army started to go across. And God was throwing them into confusion, and he was hurting their wheels, and they were trying to turn back. But as soon as all the Israelites got across, Moses put his staff back over the water, and the water closed in, and he drowned all of Pharaoh's army. Not one was left. And God was showing the people that God was with him. And God was going to be with Moses, and Moses was going to be their leader. And that was really cool, because when they see God, they see Moses. And how Moses is the servant of God, and how they can put their trust in God, and they're going to put their trust in Moses. So Moses was going to be the leader right now for the Israelites, and he was a man of faith. He wasn't a perfect man, but we see him in this story obey God. We see him trust God, and we see him follow God. No matter what was going on, even through the Egyptians' trickery, he was going to follow God. And all the plagues was really cool. All the plagues that the Egyptians had happened to them, it was against all of their false gods that they had set up. And it was really cool how God did that. God was showing that he was the only true God. And then through this whole experience, he was showing that Moses was the leader that the people were supposed to follow. Now I want you to think about people in your life that help you know God and help you follow Jesus. Maybe it's your parents. Maybe it's people in your family. Maybe it's friends. Maybe it's people at church and teachers at church, or maybe it's your pastor. There's lots of people. They say there's about 20 people that are coming to your life to help you learn about Jesus and trust and follow Jesus. So think about those people, and maybe even write a letter or a note to one of those people who have helped you find God and trust and follow Jesus. I'm going to pray. Dear God, we thank you so much for all that you give us. It's such a cool story of Moses and how God used Moses and how Moses trusted and followed him. And every time he saw God working, it helped build his faith. It helped strengthen his faith. And we can do that too. When we trust in you, we know that you're there with us. It can build our faith and help us to see the people around us who are trying to help us follow you and trust you, and help us to thank them and help us to realize how you have put them in our lives so that we can see God in them. We just love you so much, Lord. I praise you for all you give us. In your name I pray. Amen.
So, preteens, hey, it's Cam. Hey, we are going to be working on something unique for you. We have the camp in coming at the end of this month, which is going to be so cool. We'll give you details. We'll send out some like graphics and flyers for that. It's going to be super fun. We're trying to do camp in 3 nights together, just trying to take when we go to camp, what you experience, bring it to you live in your living room, which you could just log into Facebook Live and YouTube Live. It's gonna be really cool. But then also we're starting to mix up these videos a little bit. We're going like on secret location. If you notice, this isn't our normal house that we've been videoing things in, so we are at a secret location. So we just want to tell you that. And we might have a little contest to see if you can guess the secret location where we would give you hints of where we're at. So anyway, hope things are going great for you. You're awesome. Hang in there. I know we're thinking about how to get back to church. It's coming pretty soon. So just want to let you know. Hope things are great, and we'll see you soon. See you guys. Bye. We love y'all.